Welcome back to the series on our reflection of 20 years of natural freedom. Episode 4, titled Perseverance and Coping Skills. And last episode, we had a wonderful conversation with our daughter, and she was discussing the coping skills being introduced to her as a teenager.
Yes, and just how much love she had for being taught those skills.
Absolutely. She also reflected back on it almost being a culture shock because up until that point, she knew hard work and daily getting out and taking care of chores because we were a typical family farmers, and we were working really hard up until that point to teach our kids work ethics and taking care of the land and animals and all the traditional things that farm families do.
The traditional set of values, I think families of all cultures and all kinds want to teach your kids those values to move forward in life.
Mm-hmm. So when she was reflecting back in this introduction to the coping skills, she kind of mentioned that it was like, wait a minute, we're not out like working hard. And she also talked about resourcefulness and how that's like a core value that she learned within the farm as well. And so we put together a system that had worked for us. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I was the fourth generation on the farm to work it. It was started by my great-grandfather, Dr. Wade Jeffers, and then my grandfather and father continued that on, and till I had the chance to also be there. We also, within that, tied together a full system to care for our family and hopefully provide for them in the future and their education and all that. So we had rentals, and me and a partner done we flipped houses before it was cool and had all the TV shows. So
right.
Yeah.
And early in our marriage, I was a recreation therapist, graduated from Ohio University, and I was a rec therapist at the state hospital in Athens, and as things progress, they deinstitutionalized the hospital, and my position was abolished. So at that point, I started substitute teaching, and then in the evening, I taught at a local college until that program was cut as well later on. And that is when I started just, again, using the resources we had and the skill set I had to kind of contribute to the income of the family. And I provided writing lessons and coached kids. And we started a small boarding and training facility. So we had a lot of horses in and out of the barn and, kind of getting that extra income that way. And it was working really well, right? I thought it was anyway.
It was working for us and our family. So, I mean, it might have not been what everybody else would think was what it should have been, but it worked for us, and it provided us with a chance to be home and to be active in raising our kids.
Yeah.
Instead of having somebody else raise them. So.
But that changed abruptly in a cool, crisp morning, September 2002. We got a knock on the door unexpectedly, and there were two gentlemen at the door, and they were representatives of a state agency.
Yes.
And they had wanted to talk to us and informed us that apparently there were some funds that had been sitting there for decades that were supposed to have been used in our county, and they wanted to start with us being the first of the county to support things. You want to talk about that?
Yes, the funds was gathered from a corporation that had polluted the watershed. So these had sat idle for many years, and they were structured to come back into the watershed and pay for improvements. And it was a watershed that my family farm sat on and was a part of. So we applied for funding through several different agricultural programs, along with this fine money to set forth in a project uh, to improve on our farm and build it to last for the future generations.
So it seemed like a dream come true. However,
It turned into the next 5 years of jumping through hoops and over hurdles from 7 different government, state, and federal agencies. It was like playing a game of whack-a-mole. We never knew which specifics we was going by that day, and if they would be changed after we completed a piece and we'd have to redo it. And it became very stressful. It was a long 5 years. We were successful in completing the project.
but yeah, it was hard to complete something when um, it's a moving target. You're trying to hit a moving target in any particular day. So it wasn't even just frustrating on us. It was frustrating on the workers, construction workers.
It was frustrating for the
equipment operators,
people within the agencies that was trying to provide us the funds. They were even frustrated within that.
So it was a cesspool of a lot of anger and frustration for 5 years, if you can imagine, every day trying to navigate, and it changed our lives. So at one point, we knew that it was starting to weigh heavy on our bodies.
Yes. I had reached a point of not being able to stand up straight where I was holding so much stress in my back and shoulders. My blood pressure was out of control. And in talking to my doctor, she told me that things would have to change in our life, in my life, or she was going to have to hospitalize me, or I might not even be around. So this was a very stark look at the future, and makes you really dive into wanting to change the way you're doing things when they're at this point.
Absolutely. Stress will settle into your body, and we were at a place where we felt like our livelihood was being challenged, and so that fear just kind of was radiating within us.
So I'll add in that one, it wasn't even being challenged. It was the fear of losing our livelihood, and then what would we do now? Because
right.
So much of what any of us do becomes part of our identity.
Absolutely. So in the past segments, we had a list of the coping skills that we dove into, practiced, tried, and each individual family member tried different ones, because coping skills to kind of regulate yourself and your auto nervous system to help you calm your body down is unique for everyone, and not all one size fits all. So we explored a whole bunch. And so, do you remember your first core memory of one of the ones that you tried and felt like it worked?
I remember at the point of the stress and the muscular tension being so bad that it was painful, physically painful, and I remember starting to hold those muscles that were so tense as tight as I could until they couldn't hold anymore. And then I would later find out that it's called progressive muscle relaxation. So it is a technique. But I moved from that, and I also moved into using lavender essential oils in my mustache.
I remember you carrying that in your pocket for a good couple of years.
It was a couple of years. I carried that in my pocket, and got a lot of interesting looks when I'd rub it in my mustache. And But it didn't matter. It was a part of me starting to take care of myself again, instead of being caught up in the fear and what it was doing to my body.
Absolutely. And my core memory was, as if you watched Leticia's segment, she mentioned that she had the culture shock when she saw that I was doing, there was yoga on the TV, and I was in the middle of the living room, in the middle of the afternoon, by the way, which never happened. And she was like, what is mom doing? But I had gone to the library and grabbed every resource possible that I could. And in the free bin was this VHS tape called Kundalini, well, chakra yoga, I think, but it's Kundalini yoga. And I thought, well, I'll try it because we just needed to find relief and try to reboot ourselves. In that practice, it's a lot of breath work and body awareness. And so I remember distinctly, this is the time frame that we were driving kids to soccer practice, volleyball, back and forth to school, horse shows, clinics. We were on the go a lot as well. And I remember getting in the van and holding on to the steering wheel, and I was going down the road, and I looked down and I realized that I had white knuckles and I had a death grip on that steering wheel. Like if I if I took the pressure off, that steering wheel was going to come off. And it was my first recollection of going, oh, I am in that much fear brain that all of my muscles are that tight. So in that moment, was the first time I applied the yoga techniques in real life, and I took a breath, and as I exhaled, I slowly opened up my fingertips and relaxed the grip I had on the steering wheel. And that was my first core memory of applying what we were practicing or learning and trying to discover in a real life situation. And it was life-changing, because even now we use that technique in our natural freedom sessions, or I do anyway, to help relax, because a lot of times people will grab that lead rope like they have the death grip, or if they go to do something with their horse, trying to relax that muscle. So anyway, that's my core memory.
And the breath tells us so much, whether we're holding it or whether it's rapid. It just tells us the space that we're in at that time. It doesn't reflect everything, but it reflects that moment that we're in it.
Right. Absolutely. Now, that was your first couple things that you used as far as coping skills, but I believe later on, maybe a couple years later, you started implementing another technique, a coping skill. You want to share that?
In 2007, I'd been using a lot of coping skills by that time to relax and ground myself and gain better awareness of just me. And then that's when I brought in writing. So I write poetry, and it was a great way to express a lot of the things that I felt at that time, and the freedom to do it in the peace of my own home and without anybody else knowing. It was just my little thing.
With that being said, would you like to share anything today of your writings?
I do have one that I wrote this weekend, and it was when we was coming up with the title for this segment. I have it right here. The title is Perseverance, the art of getting up when others choose to beat you down, the ability to stand in the storm and not lose direction of where you want to go, the ability to not listen to those that doubt you. Perseverance, it sounds so easy, but yet it can be so hard. Sometimes the weight of life will feel too heavy to carry. Sometimes the weight of life will flow freely like a leaf floating in the current. The path to perseverance will bend like a river. The path to perseverance will have eddies that seemingly pull us backwards. The path of perseverance will have hydraulics that feel like they may trap us in that unforeseen hole. But to persevere, we must not fear. To persevere, we must know that these obstacles will be placed along the way. To persevere does not mean we will not have days that we feel weak or defeated. To persevere means we will stand up in these moments and return to moving forward. To persevere means we will get over. To persevere means that we will get through. To persevere in life, we must stand in life. Persevere.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's hard to follow that, but the use of our coping skills helped us in that heaviest time to persevere past the heaviness and the fear and the just the frustration that everything was going on at that time.
I think the use of the coping skills allowed us to open our eyes to see that we weren't done living, and these were heavy weights and big hurdles, but we could get over them. And it was within using the coping skills that we could slow enough and make positive choices within our life to do that, instead of just reacting to what was coming at us.
And so, ironically, we kind of, as we were practicing these coping skills and different things, we still had chores to do, right? We still had horses in the barn that we were training. We still had, lessons. So we started implementing.
We had children to raise, a house and a farm to care for. We had all the things that we have as a young couple trying to move forward and raise a family.
Absolutely. But I think the most powerful thing that led to natural freedom was how we started implementing the coping skills before, during our interactions with the horses, and how we started to really study the behaviors and the connections that were enhanced when we could become more self-aware of where we're at in our breath, in our body, instead of what I call my to-do brain, my busy brain, but really kind of calm myself down before I would go and engage in a relationship or a training, in connecting with the horse before I would do something with them, in terms of my job at that point. So we have a lot of stories about that. Oh my gosh, we cannot wait to share some of those, which will be next. We have so many stories about, I won't give it away. Never mind.
and I will say that learning how to use the skills to slow and take a breath and make those decisions before a tough conversation with your spouse, before a tough conversation with your kids, with a boss, with anybody. I mean, they improved all our relationships, not just the relationships with our horses.
Right.
Those are the ones that we immediately seen.
That's where we started.
Yes.
Yes. And is it always easy? No. Are we perfect? Do we practice it all the time? No. Are we always working every single day to be better at it? Absolutely. So, do you have anything to add?
I say some will say it's easy on a good day.
There you go. There you go. So until next time, we will stay tuned. We'll share our stories, our horse stories, and how that reflects to natural freedom at the next deeper level. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Have a good day.